Dr. Foster, and I just want to start out by thanking all the people here. I know we had to squeeze some chairs in, but that means a lot to me that all of you are here to support me. So this is my journey. So my first question that I personally think about when I started making my project is, who is Beth and why is she becoming Miss Winklosky? So thinking of the first question of who is Beth. If you were to ask me in 9th grade who I was, I'd shrug my shoulders and say, I have no idea, and I probably wouldn't talk to you again, which is very abnormal for the people in this room if you know me. And so as I went through high school, though, I became super involved in my ag program and in the FFA, and that helped me with my stepping stones and becoming a better person and knowing who Beth was. But in high school, if you were to also ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I could definitely look you in the face and say, not an ag teacher. Because I did not want to teach ag. I told people, they would ask me, I'd say, no, that's just not for me. It's a lot of work, it's a lot to do, and I don't know if I could handle that. And then I started school at Penn State. I'm an ag business major, not knowing what I was doing still, just slowly stepping into who is Beth. And after that year, I became and was honored as being a Pennsylvania State FFA officer, which was a life-changing year for me. And in that year, I met a lot of people, realized that ag ed is what I wanted to do. And throughout that year, the exact day that I knew I wanted to teach agriculture, I was with my state officer team, and we were talking about what we wanted to do, and I said, I want to make relationships with people, I want to educate them, I want to reach out to people. And Mr. Brammer looked me in the eyes and said, you need to be an ag teacher. And no joke, later on that day, I went to my advisor and I emailed her and changed my whole route. And so now I'm here at Penn State. I've met great people, and I'm trying to figure out who Miss Winklosky is, because I figured out who Beth is, and I know that I want to make relationships, impact people, and I want to educate. So I'm just trying to figure out on this journey who Miss Winklosky is. So our first question, who do I aspire to be as a teacher? So my philosophy on teaching is, in my classroom, I want to be welcoming and inclusive to my students, because if they're not welcomed and if they don't know that that's where they want to be, then how am I going to have students that are engaged and that care about agriculture in the program? So I want to make sure that my classroom is welcoming and that everyone feels included at all times. And then for SAE, I want that to be a real-life career experience, because in today's world, agriculture education and any career in tech education, you need to start to get your feet wet and know that what you want to do. So you're not like me, lost in 9th grade, not knowing what you're going to do, which is the case for a lot of students. But I want to be able to help students find real career experience, that they're able to go out and do what they know and what they love with a little more experience in their back pocket than maybe someone else. And then for FFA, I want to be a mentor, and I want to build relationships. Like I said originally, that's why I'm here. I want to talk to people, I want to engage with them, I want to support them, and make sure that they're going farther in their lives for their benefit, because if they're benefiting from it, then I'm also benefiting from their success. And then one little quote that I just had in the bottom that I know a lot of us have heard and a lot of us have probably seen before: they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So I try to be as caring as possible to everyone I meet, because that care is really what pushes students, and it's really what pushes people in general. And that's what you have to do as an educator, and especially one in agriculture, because it is a family and that's what we're all here for. And there's also in your packets a little infographic of my philosophy if you want to look at it again. So classroom management. So for me, making sure that your class has great expectation is the start to any good classroom. So I have these posters here that we can look at. The first being my expectations. So setting good expectations is one, that we're going to be present, we're going to be team players, and we're going to be willing to try new things, and then we're going to be respectful and maintain a positive classroom. That's just some things that I strive to do as a person too, so that's something that I would want my students to strive for. And then just some procedures on a day-to-day basis is, I want them to arrive on time and be prepared for class. I want them to complete their do-nows, actually participate in the class, and ask questions, and making sure that they're actually engaged every day. And then if something falls through in one of these aspects, there are going to have to be consequences with any classroom. There needs to be some structure. So first they'll get a verbal warning, and then they'll privately meet with the teacher, and then they'll have to get a referral to the office, and then ultimately, if it has to come to that, they'll get a detention. So that's just my thoughts on classroom management. ideal program, if I were to teach and make up my own program, I would have 4 pathways, which may be a lot to some people, and it is. So I would personally want to teach in a multi-teacher program. I would strive to not be alone. And I want my students to start off with an Intro to Agriculture class, and then from there they would always take SAE, because that's a fundamental part of the 3-circle model. And then from there, they would have pathways: horticulture, animal science, natural resource, and agricultural mechanics. And then just some example classes that they could take throughout their time in high school. And then, so with that in my agriculture, with ag mechanics as a part of what my ideal program would be, is I would have a shop, an ideal ag mechanics shop with everything that the students need up to date and up to safety, of course, so that the students are able to learn and really gain that career success. So one other thing that we did this semester was we worked on a $15 project, which mine is right here. It's slightly bulky, but it is here because it's a kestrel nesting box, which they are a bird of prey, so it's not a tiny little bluebird box or anything. So, and then I just laid out, the format of what I used to cut my pieces and put it together. So, but I'll be talking about this in a little bit later. And so my SAE and FFA integration. So we all know that the FFA has the creed, which has 5 paragraphs that all start out with "I believe." So I figured, why not use this for my personal thoughts on SAE and FFA integration. So the first "I believe" statement is, I believe in student leadership. And that goes for both FFA and SAE, because making sure that students believe in themselves and have that leadership ability and have that ownership is key to any success in any type of program, business, or future plans. So I think that encompasses a lot overall. For SAE, I believe in learning through doing. So making sure that they're actually doing something meaningful, because not everybody has all the time in the world. So when they're in high school and using that, and using the time that they have to do something that's meaningful is important. And then I believe in career readiness, so making sure that they're ready for careers. Like I said, they have something in their back pocket to go off of, something that their feet are wet, so that they're not just going out there like I was and not really knowing what was going on. And so then for FFA, I believe in guiding students to their best potential. As an FFA advisor, I believe that I'm just a tool and a mentor to help guide the students to their success. It's about them, and it's about making sure that they're getting where they need to go, and for their best, so that they can become the best that they can be. And then I believe in an inclusive mindset in our FFA members, because being inclusive and feeling inclusive are 2 different things. Just having people included sometimes isn't the same as making sure they're engaged and having that mindset. So I really want to help my students focus on the mindset of being engaged and being inclusive, rather than just trying to include as many people just to try to include a lot of people. And then this semester, with any good FFA program, they always have a good recruitment video, and I worked with Miss Brooke Ostrander and Miss Lisa Boltz, so we can take a look at my recruitment video. this video, we went to Bald Eagle High School and we highlighted their students and had them make sure that they were engaged in the project as well, so that really made it authentic. So community integration, so in a good agriculture program, there should always be the thought of your community and they should always be involved. So for mine, I will be doing a community-based unit, and we are going to use the $15 project of the Kestrel boxes, and in our wildlife, forestry, and fishery and forestry science, we are planning on making these boxes, learning about the kestrel, and then going to the Game Commission, having them come to talk to us, and then giving these boxes to the community to put out throughout Perry County. So I think that'll be a really great way to involve the community. And then the second part, what experiential education opportunities have I engaged in to become a better agricultural educator? So I am at Penn State. It's a great university, and going through, there's a lot of classes that you realize that you take. And the first one being Animal Science 201 stuck out to me because you learn everything and anything about animals from the molecular level to the large animal production side. So I just thought that that was a great class that encompassed all of that. And then Horticulture 232, which is Horticulture Systematics. At first, I didn't want to take this class. I had the push of Ryan Rupert to help me really take it because I wasn't too sure in it. And in this class, we learned anything and everything about horticulture, and I'm so thankful that I took it. A great project that we did in the class that I would take with me is we did a pressed flower specimen, and throughout the semester we had to collect the plants, press them, find out their location, their history, everything about that plant, and put it into a nice big binder. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to bring it because the binder was very bulky and it was starting to fall apart because they were pressed flowers. So, and then in INTAG 100, which is International Agriculture, this class really just helped open my eyes to agriculture away from home and the importance of it and the importance of our home here and how it's helping them over there and vice versa. And then educational psychology. Like I said, I really like building relationships and talking to people, so this just helped me understand my students even more and where they may have came from and what they might be thinking or going through. And then certifications. So I have my National Safe Tractor and Machinery Operation certification through Penn State, which was really great, and I'm thankful for, and I was also CPR, AED, and First Aid certified as well. And then I also got Google Educator certification because West Perry High School is a Google school, so I figured that this would probably be a great way to learn all the ins and outs of Google if I'm going to be using it, and that's what my students are up to date in using as well. And then professional development organizations. I highlighted a few here that I'm involved in, but two that I wanted to talk about was the Pennsylvania Association of Agriculture Educators. This summer, we were able to go to Dover High School and spend a week with educators in our own state of Pennsylvania, which was a really great experience because I was able to just engage and network with those teachers and getting a nice basis here at home of knowing the support that we have. And then NAAE, which is the National Association of Agriculture Educators. Just 2 weeks ago, my cohort and I were out in San Antonio, Texas, and we were networking, talking, learning, and bringing home resources that were extremely valuable to us. And this conference could not have been any better because we were able to really get that network and that netting of our support system, and also just being able to go out and meet those people and bring home some great resources that we can use in our classroom. So just to highlight a couple of experiences that I have had, I went on the domestic study away with Penn State, and we went to the New England states, and this again was an amazing trip. And we got to see how agriculture education programs differ from our own in the agriculture in that state, along with seeing how they implement the three-circle model, because it's always different how some states tackle different parts of the three-circle model. So this was really beneficial and opened my eyes to just seeing the difference in everything across the New England states compared to Pennsylvania. Another experience, I was the intern at Indiana County for their 4-H for a summer. And this was a really great experience. I learned a lot, especially on the non-formal side, because that's just as important as formal education. And having that background now, since I did this internship, was great. I got to work with younger students and be able to be involved with them. And it's really community-based when it comes to non-formal education. So I was really able to network within that community, which was really beneficial. And then my one great experience, like I said before, which was the turning point for me, was becoming a state FFA officer and just having this experience to travel across the state, meet so many students, see so many programs and teachers, and just be able to engage with all of that and bringing that in with me and figuring out what I was going to do with my future. And our third part, how I prepared to maximize my student teaching internship opportunity. So I'll be going to West Perry High School, which is a really amazing high school. They have a lot of great opportunities for me. And I'll be with, like Dr. Foster said, Ayla Miller and John Hines. And their program offers agricultural mechanics, animal science, and environmental science. And they have a greenhouse, a shop, and 2 classrooms that they use for their students. So I'll be able to use all of those throughout my time student teaching there. And so 339 evaluation, so this is just about a 339 evaluation, is a program as a whole and seeing how they're improving year to year. So I just broke down the 3-circle model and just pulled out a few positives that my program has because I always like to look at the positives. So in the classroom they have relevant courses that are engaging in the community. West Perry really does reach out to their community and make sure that they are involving them and that the students are learning at a local level because that's important to every school district. And then 3 components they teach agriculture, food, and natural resources. Like I said in my previous slide, they cover all those pathways. So their FFA, their members are involved in constructing and implementing and living out their POA. They really do have a full POA, a full body membership of FFA members, and they take FFA and they really run with it. They have a great program, so I'm excited to be with them on that. And then they have up-to-date and sound budget for all members, so they really keep their budget up to date, and they're able to help financially. A lot of members go to things and do things that maybe they wouldn't be able to do before. And then SAE, students definitely maintain their AET at West Perry, which I think is a great tool because that's record keeping and making sure that they're knowing their checks and balances are in order, and that's important even in life as they go out throughout their future. And so also at West Perry, they implement agreements through teachers, parents, supervisors, and the students in their program. So this I feel is really important, and that I feel like it's a key piece of what they do, because without everybody being on the same page and knowing that they're there for the student, then they can't really move forward in the best of ways. So I like that they implement this so that it's smooth for everybody and that they know that the student's growing. And then this is just a glance at the calendar. It is in the packet. And so this is period by period what I'll be teaching and when I'll be teaching it throughout my semester there. So I'm definitely teaching a wide variety, and you'll see agri-science and technology is on there 3 times. That's West Perry's introduction course that that the freshmen must take and pass to take the rest of their courses. And me and Ayla decided that the 3rd time's a charm, so if I do the class 3 times, then by the 3rd time I should be in pretty good sitting and being able to know what I'm doing, so have a better grasp on my lessons to make sure that I'm really implementing them to their fullest. So I thought that that was a really great opportunity. And then, so my organization for the classes. So I have binders up here for each class, and I'd like to keep them up to date and keep them relevant with my lessons and updating those lessons. But the main thing I think that drives a lot of us, and especially college students, is Google Drive. I don't know where we would be today without it, because you can really stay organized, and especially West Perry being a Google school, it really helps to implement between the student and me and my cooperating teachers, and it's a great platform to use to stay organized and to keep everything in one spot and everyone on the same page. So this is kind of looking back onto me, is where I still need to grow. So maybe some weaknesses that I have seen in myself, but I think that I can tackle them while I'm student teaching. So organization and timeliness on work. I feel that if I become more organized while I'm student teaching and get my work done at a sooner time and make sure that I'm planning out how I do my work, I'm able to get it done in a more timely manner and in a better suited way than just trying to get some things in. And then sometimes I overanalyze. A lot of us do this. When you think of something, then you think of 50 other things of what if, or what if that happens, or what if this happens. And I feel like I need to just calm my mind and be able to just take it at face value and make sure that I'm seeing the best in it. And then sometimes I feel, maybe some people in this room can attest, that I can be too talkative is that sometimes I just keep going, or I don't know when to like stop talking, so sometimes I feel like I need to just regulate when I jump into a conversation, when I jump out of a conversation, so that's where I feel that I need to grow some. And then what I feel ready for. So I'm very personable, I feel. I definitely like to talk to each person individually and get to know you as a person. And that goes along with me wanting to make great relationships. I'm very charismatic. I care about each person that I come in contact with, making sure that they do great things and that they're on their way and set to do great things, because that's what I want for people. I definitely try to be a glass half full. Even in my classroom expectations is to be positive, because even if there's 10 bad things, there's probably 20 good things, and if we keep looking at those 10 bad things, we're going to forget about the 20 good things. And so I'm very passionate about teaching agriculture. In 9th grade I was not, but today I know that my whole mindset has changed, and that that is what I would want to do with my future, and I can't see myself doing anything else. So just some goals for while I'm student teaching. So I want to be able to gain confidence in my abilities. So I want to be able to, at the end of student teaching, feel a little more prepared and a little better, knowing that I can teach very well, or like I could do this class very well, or taking home something that I know I can do well at. And then finding my personality as a teacher. So this is kind of bridging that gap between student and teacher. So I'm hoping that I can find that gap and flip to the teacher side and be able to find where I fit in that part. And then I want to stay up on my assignments and tasks that I have at hand. So just like with my weakness of making sure I'm more timely with things, I definitely want to have a goal of making sure that I'm more timely with things. And then I want to make the best experience for my students, because in the end, it's about the students and making sure that they have the best experience and making sure that they are doing what they want to do with their. I just want the best experience for my students so that they are able to go out and know that they got a quality education and know that I'm here as a mentor and a guide to help them and educate them, because that's why it is important. That's why we teach agriculture. So, what questions do we have?
We do have questions. Let's give a round of applause for So for this process, we will rotate questions from our audience in the room to our virtual audience and to the teacher education panel. And so we will start with the audience in the room. What questions does anyone have? Ms. Fisher.
So Beth, you touched a little bit on how West Perry's a Google school, and you talked slightly about how you're utilizing Google already, but is there any specific points within your units or lessons that you are going to implement Google Schools?
So for Google School, definitely implementing it as they take a lot of it. I'm planning on implementing it in their quizzes and exams, to use the Google form to like make their exams for them, and then also just have classroom discussion panels that you can have within Google, so hopefully being able to engage them in that way, and then also just having maybe some like virtual notes that they're able to take rather than always hand notes, because if we have the technology, I feel like we should be able to use it. So those are a few ways of how I plan on using Google.
And to our virtual audience.
All right, this question comes from Liz Wilshire.
Okay.
And Liz wants to know, what class are you most excited to teach and why?
I think the class that I'm most excited to teach is probably my wildlife, fishery, and forestry science class, because I don't know a lot about it, but I feel like it's something that you can really get hands-on with and students can really engage, and that I can have some really creative lessons with them and make sure that they're learning the material in really creative ways. So I just think it's a great class that I'm going to be able to really manipulate to be the best for my students. So
Awesome.
thanks, Liz.
All right. Dr. Ewing.
Yeah, I'll ask a question. So in class A 413, Program Planning and Management, we talked a lot about the courses you teach, the units you teach, how you build this program. I didn't hear a whole lot about how you might use people other than yourself as the teacher to make that happen. Are there any groups within your program that you'll have that could help you maybe with specific parts of your program to make it better?
I think with my program, I definitely want to have be involved in the local advisory committee and operational advisory committee for my school, and making sure I have a sound board. So what those are, for those of you who don't know, is it is a board of community members that come together and they are able to talk about the program, discuss the strengths and weaknesses and where the program's going. So I definitely want to implement a occupational advisory committee to make sure that my program is meeting the needs that it needs to for my students and the community, because every school district is focused on their local community, which is great because that's where their students are going out and working. So making sure that my advisory committee is made up of some really quality community members and even outside the community is definitely something I will implement. So.
While our live audience reflects, I'm going to ask another question from your teacher education panel. So you've mentioned the school-based ag education model and philosophy of 3 components. I'd like for you to give me an example of one specific learning activity that would transcend all 3 of those components.
One specific activity.
Or content or concept. A way that a student would engage with an area through all 3 components of the school-based ag ed program.
So for example, they could take a dairy science class in my program through the animal science pathway. They could then compete in the CDE of dairy science, and then they could also work on a dairy farm or even raise a dairy calf as an SAE project. So I feel like that's a good way to implement all 3 for the student success.
Good job. To the audience, Sprouse, ag science major, Penn State.
So you talked about the fact that being a state officer and your experience that year really stuck out to you, and that's what made you decide to become an ag teacher. I think that's really important that you had that experience, and that's what made you decide to become an ag teacher. It's really pivotal in your life. So what kinds of experiences or people or even just skills and stuff did you learn as a state officer that you're going to take with you as a teacher?
I think as a state officer, the first thing that I learned was letting things roll off your shoulders. So each day we go, and during the fall as a state officer, you go and you go to schools for the entire day and you teach leadership workshops, which is definitely not the same as teaching in a classroom, and I'm not trying to compare them, but it just helps you to roll off your shoulders if those students aren't engaged. You kind of just say, oh, I hope for the best for you, but not letting it bother you too much. So definitely letting things roll off your shoulders is something that I learned. Also, just some of the, I know, and sometimes students, while we were there at the chapter visits, one-on-one with students, they would tell us some very personal things every now and again, and I know that that touched me because I'm very charismatic and I cared about that student, and I knew that I wanted to be there to help with the best for them, and they always would say that the ag program and being involved in the ag is what's their stronghold. And so that really gave me something to work with of why I wanted to become an ag teacher, because I want to be that stronghold for those students that maybe don't know, outside of that ag classroom what's going on in their lives. So that was something as a state officer that really impacted me as well. So
I think that transitions nicely to one of our virtual questions. Ms. Moore.
All right. This comes from Carly Wright.
Carly Wright is a graduate of PSU Ag at 18, teaching at West Green.
She said you talk about how much you care, and she's the same type of person, but sometimes you can take things to heart. How can you use this as a strength when sometimes it can be a weakness?
So sometimes taking things to heart can definitely take a toll on some people, because you really do start to do the overanalyzing and worrying about the person or the thing that's going on. But to make it a strength is that being able to be so caring is that's how you impact people. So just being able to know that I care about Justin means that Justin's going to know that somebody cares about him, and then he's going to refer that act on to Caitlin, and then she's going to be able to feel maybe a little bit more cared for or involved in something. So I feel that it's a strength because just like a smile, if one person sees it, then probably 10 others will see it as a reflection. So.
Excellent. Mr. Curry.
I have a follow-up on that. You talked a lot about making a really inclusive program that's not just checking boxes for diversity's sake, but actually is inclusive for everyone. Maybe skip ahead to 6 months from now when Ms. Winklosky is building her own program, chartering one, revitalizing one, helping at one. Give me a hallmark of your program. Give me a strategy of your program. Give me some institutional thing that is your program that makes your room and your program inclusive.
I think making sure that my mindset is inclusive so that it radiates to my students, and making sure that I'm keeping students engaged in a positive way. So I want to make sure that my program as a whole, as a signature, will be a positive and uplifting thing that's here for the students and for them, not just to maybe compete in FFA events or to go out and do super crazy FFA things, but I think as a program I want to make sure that my students and that they're staying positive in the local level and on themselves, and I think that that is what's going to help my program to be inclusive, is making sure that my students know themselves and feel included as well. So thanks, Dr. Ferry.
And back to our live audience. Question from the audience here? Yes, ma'am.
Are you worried about the kids taking you seriously? Because you think other students range from 15 to 18, and the fact that we are in our young 20s.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we talk about in class, even of the age gap between seniors being like 18 sometimes and us only being 21 or 22. So I definitely think that that is something. Also tying that back to my state officer experience, when we went into our chapter visits, sometimes we were the exact same age as the students, but it depends on how you go into the classroom, is how they're going to react to you and how they might treat you. So that was also something tying back FFA, is what I gained as a state officer, is if I go in the classroom not thinking I'm 22 and you're 18, but thinking I'm the teacher and I'm here to help you as a person, then I feel like that gap will not be as big, or there won't be as many issues. So.
Ms. Moore, do we have any additional questions from our virtual audience?
We do. We have one last question. This comes from Katie Smith. She says, in teaching the same class multiple times, how are you prepared to account for differences in students' speed and ability?
So teaching the same class multiple times is, like I said, the benefit is being able to try it 3 different times, but also each class is different. Every student is different. So trying to make sure that I stay on track with each one, but knowing that, just having the mindset of knowing that not every class is going to be the same, not every class fits like a puzzle piece, so knowing that this class might be behind, but knowing that they have a strength in this unit that I know that they could excel in, while maybe the other class might need more time, and knowing that there is always a balance between classes. So.
Excellent.
I think it's time for your last question. And you're uniquely qualified, I believe, to answer this question. So I'd like for you to visualize that you're sitting in front of a room. All these people here are actually parents in the community and school board members who are contemplating making a decision, okay? And we know that school-based ag education is an expensive program to deliver. And they're contemplating, should we add a school-based ag education program? And you've given your presentation and you're at the very end of it, and you only have 90 seconds left. In 90 seconds, I want you to give your final statement of why should we invest in school-based agricultural education.
I feel that we should invest in school-based agricultural education because it's making the impact on you just as much as it's making the impact on our students, because the school is here for our students. That's why we have this, and agriculture education is a great tool to implement where our food, fiber, and natural resource comes from, and using those tools in our students to grow them to help our community, and being able to make sure that we're able to go out and have proper and ready students to fill the careers that might be here in the audience, people with careers that are here in the audience or anything like that. So I feel that agriculture education is important because it's taking what we use every day, giving it to our students as a leadership tool, and making them better leaders themselves to go out and fulfill your jobs and careers here.
Let's give a round of applause.